Amateur Radio News and Notes for Friday, April 24th, 2026. I'm Ed Kavik, November 2 Echo Charlie. In the log this week, SteppIR communication systems are going to be returning to the amateur radio market. We'll also talk about MVARC breakfast and meeting happening tomorrow. We'll talk about MVARC Nets on the air, see what's happening with DX, get a solar activity update, talk about some upcoming contests, and take a look at interesting online radio content. As always, links to all the reference content can be found in the show notes or at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. SteppIR Communication Systems, the maker of remotely tunable Yagi-Uda antennas, announced that they are returning to the amateur radio market. SteppIR announced their departure from the amateur market in June of 2025 to focus on their commercial customers. In their most recent announcement, they say that they'll be able to return many of the amateur products to the market with warranty support and services in place. They've also teased some new products on the horizon and reduced prices. Along with the return of Cushcraft and High Gain last week, the amateur radio antenna market is regaining a lot of options for operators looking for more gain. More information can be found at a link in the show notes. Tomorrow, Saturday, April 25th, 2026, is the date of our next monthly breakfast. As usual, we'll meet up at 8 a.m. at the IHOP at 7694 Richmond Highway in Alexandria, Virginia for great conversation, camaraderie, and breakfast too. We have been having a great turnout in the last few months, and there's always room for you to join in the fun. And then after the breakfast, we have our monthly in-person meeting, which will be held at 10:30 a.m. in the Gerry Hyland Government Center at 8350 Richmond Highway in Alexandria, Virginia, where our speaker will be Nick AJ4YB, who will be talking to us about the club's repeater with a look at the current facilities and a bit of history as well. We hope to see you there. Now let's take a look at some MVARC Nets on the air. We have our 2-meter FM net Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on the repeater. That is immediately followed by the 2-meter digital net on Yaesu System Fusion C4 FM. On the weekends, we got the MVARC Slow Speed CW Roundtable on Saturdays and Sundays at 7:30 a.m. on 3.565 megahertz on CW. And then the Cherry Tree Net on sideband Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 a.m. on 3.920 megahertz, where we always have a great conversation, and you're always welcome to join us. Now let's take a look at what is happening with DX. There'll be a lot of DX on the air this week. Stations on the air include Marquesas Islands, Bermuda, Gambia, Comoros, Central Kiribati, Minami Torishima, Colombia, and South Orkney Islands. A calendar of DX expeditions can be found at dxnews.com/calendar. And now it's time for a solar activity update. As we go to press, the Solar Flux Index, or SFI, was 128, and the estimated sunspot number was 71, with 4 numbered sunspot regions visible from Earth. Over the last week, the SFI has increased. The solar activity has been at high levels in the last 24 hours. The geomagnetic field has been at quiet to unsettled levels in the last 24 hours, and the KP index reached 3 yesterday. Solar wind peaked at 496 kilometers per second. Solar activity is predicted to be at moderate levels with a slight chance of X-class flares today through Sunday. The geomagnetic field is forecast to be at quiet to unsettled levels today, at quiet to active levels on Saturday, and quiet to minor storm levels on Sunday. The chance of solar radiation storms at the S1 or greater level is at 10% today through Sunday. R1 to R2 radio blackouts are likely today, with a predicted probability of 55% today and 60% chance predicted on Saturday and Sunday. R3 or greater blackouts are possible, with a 10% chance predicted today and a 15% chance predicted Saturday and Sunday. It remains a fantastic time for amateurs to get on the air and work the world. Good sources of real-time information include spaceweatherlive.com and solarham.com. A good overview of conditions can be found at dx.qsl.net/propagation. To see D-layer absorption data and associated radio blackouts, visit the NOAA DRAP page. And to see real-time maximum useful frequency, or MUF, and critical frequency, or FOF2 information from Radiosonde data, visit prop.kc2g.com. And now let's take a look at some upcoming contests. This weekend brings the Tipaleo DX contest, the SB DX RIDI contest, the UK EI DX contest on CW, QRP to the field, the Helvetia contest, the Nebraska QSO party, the Florida QSO party, the UA1DZ Memorial Cup, the Samuel Morse Memorial Contest, and the BARTG Sprint 75. As always, the K1USN SSTs, the MSTs, and the CWTs will also be on the air. The full contest calendar with events and exchanges can be found at contestcalendar.com. And now let's wrap things up with some interesting online radio content. As always, everything we're about to talk about here is linked in the show notes and also at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. Colin, MM0OPX, shows us how he packs and prepares for portable operations. Kevin, 2E0 Whiskey Mike Golf, goes for a paddle by kayak and shows us his maritime mobile antenna setup while operating on an island. Craig, KM6LYW, shows us new features in the beta version of DigiPi. Gabe, KL1FI, shows us how he received slow-scan television signals from the International Space Station. Hayden, VK7HH, talks about used radios and potential pitfalls to look out for. Mike, K8MRD, takes a look at the Skyhook and the pod for vertical antennas. Adam, K6ARK, and Mark, KD7DTS, have some Type 2 fun on a very challenging SOTA activation. Bobby, W6IWN, takes a look at the Chameleon CFM's 34 carbon fiber mast. Adam, K6ARK, and Mark, KD7DTS, activate Edgar Peak for an all-time new one SOTA activation. Doug Bode, KD7DUG, takes us along for a SOTA activation and asks where amateur radio will take you. Josh, KI6NAZ, takes a look at the W0 AEZ batteries for ICOM rigs. Callum, M0MCX, shows us his 160-meter vertical antenna project. Forrest, KI7QCF, shows the Spooltenna Ultra antenna in action. Ara, N6ARA, gives an extensive behind-the-scenes of how he built his April Fool's Day retro rig. This one's a lot of fun. Stuart, VE9CF, talks about reciprocal licensing issues between the U.S. and Canada. Patrick, KJ7SZU of Geocron, does a head-to-head comparison of the performance of their different products. And Steve, KM9G, shows the all-in-one cable for digital modes. Well, that is it for this week. I've been Ed, November 2, Echo Charlie. As always, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a great week ahead. Best 73, and we look forward to seeing you next week.